Welcome viewers to ePathashala, the lecture course on GIS for postgraduate students of architecture. We were discussing about the structures in GIS, data structures, and I was telling you about the raster data structures. One of the finest and the best is your run length coding. Let us see the details of run length coding of raster data structuring. One of the earliest and simplest methods of this particular data compression, and it is a very effective one. What does it do? A repeated string of characters is replaced by 2 bytes. So, naturally, if that particular number of character appears more and more, the character itself is taken into consideration and it is replaced. 2-dimensional coding is done. The first line is coded using the ID scheme, the next k lines are coded using the first line. Obviously, depending upon the size or the size of k or the number of k lines will be depending upon the application type what Excel you are using for. If you look at the RLE example for a vector map, you can see the smoothness of this particular vector map. The same thing when I am using in raster, this becomes coarser. This how do you avoid, how do you improve that smoothness? Obviously, when I divide this into further n number of cells, that is refining the resolution of the cell, obviously the map also will get smoothened. To attain this, we can smoothen this. Well, how do you represent this object? So, do not worry about or brood about this particular aspect, that can be improved. How do you compress the data? How do you represent this particular data using RLE? As you can see here, this is what is the table which is being generated. The entire first row is not there, second row no values, the third row up to the sixth, of course it is not up to sixth, that is 0. Afterwards the red one is indicative of red 1, that is your object or theme 1, 1 1 followed by 4 2s, then the second row, the fourth row, fifth row and so on and so forth. So, you find that each of them has got a value. In the case of your vector data, these attributes were stored separately and it was retrieved whenever is required. Similarly, here in this case, it can be retrieved and its xy location is much easier because we know the xy or the origin of this. If this is referred to, say your lat long or easting and northing, as I told you, it could be here or it could be here or it could be the center origin point. How is the value stored in a say or how it is coded? You can see here 1 to 16 it is 0, second row 1 to 16 is 0, third row 1 to 6 is 0, 7 and 8 is 1, 9 to 12 is 2, 13 to 16 is again 0 and so on and so forth. Here the small drawback is that even if you have just 2 cells here, you will have to mention because you cannot have from 2 here, because 2 cells you can have, 7 to 8 you can't say, whereas 9 to 12, 13 to 16, even if it is more than 2 you can say 6 to 8. So, little redundancy will be there, but still it is very effective. So, this is the value, this is the way the run length code encoding is being done and the entire map whatever is required is stored here, and at the time of retrieval it becomes much easier for the computer. 1 to 16 it gives a blank value because it is only cell value, just pick from the hard disk, and then 7 and 8 it just gives the value of 1 1, 9 to 12 it gives a value of 2 and so on and so forth. So, the retrieval is much convenient here. If it is for a single layer, you can see here, if I am using the same method, that is your full matrix without compression, what will happen, and the same thing when I am using the run length code, Of course, I did not want to go to the details because I already explained you. You can see the bytes. In the case of a full matrix, it is 162 bytes of data, and in the case of a run length encoding, it is only 44, or almost 1/4. And obviously, you should remember this is a lossless compression, and normally most of the other things will be lossy compression. So, it is opposed to your lossy, since the original data can be exactly reproduced in this case. We have raster chain coding based on the direction of the data or the movement. A little tricky, but not very tricky. I will just explain you how it is done. As you know that everything is nothing but a array of grid cells. How do you code the data? How do you store the data? Or any given value, if you just pick a particular value, that particular map may be containing 4 different objects numbered 1, 2, 3, 4. You can make a beginning somewhere and then start making the system to understand what is present where based on the direction part. Let us see that. The starting point here is the origin here, and it says this is not considered. From this point, this particular value 4 which has been considered in this map, you will have to describe the direction in which it is moving, or it is disposed rather. 4, this is the value. With respect to this, it goes to the north 1 cell, again east 1 cell. You cannot go like this, because if you go like this you can't come back. So, you will have to cover the entire area, isn't it? See how excellently they devised this. Go to the maximum on the north side. If nothing is there, you could have gone like this, because you have a north one. With respect to this cell, there are 2 north. With respect to this cell, there are 2 on the eastern part. With respect to this cell, there are 3 on the southern part. With respect to this, there are about 3 on the western part. So, the entire area is covered. You do not have to worry about all the things intervening here, because it is when it just takes a round, the entire thing is considered, and this is also included. So, this is how your run chain code, chain like structure, it goes like this, goes like this, goes like this and comes back. So, obviously, when this is there, all this I mean, if it is a very small grid, if you have a larger grid, you will understand that. So, you can all automatically have that. But of course, in the other cases, when you have small areas like this, if it consider this, it is again, you see how what happens, this cell, its location to the north, same value, that is all, it is over. Here is only one cell, only its cell location will be there. Sometimes when you have different features in the same map, this is a little difficult one to express. The same context, it is block coding, it is otherwise your 2-dimensional run length encoding, wherein which the block coding part of it, this is how it is done. Here block here is nothing but a square block. So, this is one block, isn't it? Unfortunately, this is only one cell. So, there is only one separate block, this is another separate block, and this will form one block, this will form one block. So, here you see how it is shown, block coding. That means any number of square grids can be there within this one, that is your block coding. There is another set of models which are not directly related, but still are very important in terms of coding. It could be based on your row, or it could be cells, like you can see that. This is a simple row model, starts from here, goes like this. Obviously, when I go here, I am not going to come like this, that is a row prime, you can see the difference, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, then I will have to again come back to here. So, this is the row technique, it goes like this, goes like this, goes like this. The same technique, instead of using this method, if I am going to use the method of prime, goes like this, instead of coming back to the 1 here, it just dumps to the last cell of the second row. So, in this context, it is only going to be row by row. In this context, it will be row by the row, but taking the last cell as the first. So, it goes like this, its first cell will become the first cell here, it goes like this. So, this is the way the row prime moves around. Then another interesting aspect is how are you going to consider the blocks. So, when I have 3, 6, 8 by 8, this is divided into n number of square set of grids, 4 of them, then the 4 of them, 4 of them. So, for this 4 this will be the coding. So, it is covering all the 4, for this 4 this will be the covering. So, this is how it is taken, that is called as Peano-Hilbert method. So, orders of 2-dimensional data. So, ultimate aim is to close in the all the physical space on the close on the disk part of it. Here there is a Morton method, a very interesting method again. Instead of going, so the same method as this is a prime method, this is your this row method. So, goes like this, finished, this block is complete, then the second block goes like this. So, here it does not jump to this side, it goes to this place, it covers these 4, so on and so forth. You can see here, because these are all mathematical way of doing it, but still very important for us to know, at least to know how it is being stored. Quad tree, one of the popular one, and this is one which is being used very much in almost all the types of data storage. Quad tree, quadrant and tree like structure, dividing the area entirely into various quadrants, namely the 4 quadrants of the earth, like how we represent the earth surface: northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest. So, these are the 4 quadrants that take tree like structure. In each of the quadrants you can calculate and make in such a way that it will follow a specific pattern. We will see that in detail. It is a hierarchical database structure, and based on the concept of recursive decomposition of space. How to recursive? You can see this here. It is, as I told you, it is divided into, subdivides a grid into 4 quadrants: northwest, northeast, southwest and southeast. That is the way in which it is divided, and you can see that data structure, the entire A, that is your object A, is covering this entire northwest. In southwest you have part covered by B, part covered by A. So, obviously I cannot consider this as a single object, hence I divide this into 4 quadrants. When I divide this into 4 quadrants, I know that this particular quadrant will fall into A, this into A. So, obviously what I have to do, I cannot just like that take the entire, as in the case of northwest, I cannot take this into consideration. I will have to be very sure which part of the map is falling in this one, I mean which part of this particular quadrant is falling in which quadrant. So, if I can identify that, it becomes much easier. You can see here, this is how it is done. Obviously, when I come to this particular grid, namely your southeast, I have 4 quadrants. Fortunately, this is C entirely, this is partly C and partly your B. So, what I will have to do is I will have to further divide it into n number of quadrants, saying that this will be 1. So, this is how it goes. See, entire thing is 1, does not matter. So, what I will do, I will consider this one, that is northwest, and then southwest and the southeast as one content, and this will be different, and further divide into 1. If these 3 are same, no problem, I can just consider it as a 1 unit. So, division, subdivision, this part is separate, again subdivided, and a tree like structure continuously changing over time will be considered here. As I was telling you, the root node corresponds to the entire grid. So, this the root node, and obviously the leaf nodes, that is all the other nodes. So, how they have mentioned it, it identifies the attribute values and the quadrants which has to be further divided or subdivided. obviously the intermediate nodes correspond to quadrants that are further subdivided time and again. So, it will, without any further subdivision, a part can be done, as we have seen in the previous case also here, or you can also see here, this does not require any subdivision, but what this requires subdivision. So, that is so. So, this will be the root node. For this context, the entire A, first one is your northwest, entire full. In northeast, see how many divisions are there, and that again is further, that is what I told you, that again is further divided into northwest, southwest, northeast and southeast, and here you see here how many cells. This northwest is further divided into 4 of them. So, this is what is your leaf or intermediate nodes which are to be represented. So, very complicated, but still very effective, and then the storage becomes much easier when you follow this technique. So, when you are working the same raster data for say multiple layers, what happens? How do you work on that? Let us see that. For multiple layers, satellite data, one good example of your multiple layers is that every satellite will have n number of sensors. Each sensor will be acquiring information about the earth's surface in various bands. Sometimes it could be just one band like a panchromatic band, or it could be multispectral band, 3 or 4 bands will be there, or it could be a thematic mapper in the case of Landsat satellite where it could be 7 or 8, or it could be hyperspectral where the bands will be 64, a minimum of. So, when you are trying to think in those lines, just imagine what should be the total quantum of data which has to be stored or which has to be received by the receiving station on the ground surface, which are being normally transmitted by the satellites. So, what is that you require here is that you should have some method of storing the data. I think if you remember, we were discussing in the case of a remote sensing that the entire earth is perceived and it is divided into n number of cells in terms of your remote sensing. It is not physically, you do not do that. A sensor will consist of an array of grid cells, and each of them will be having a resolution of 5 meters, 23 meters, 20 meters depending upon the resolution of that particular sensor, and it will be capable of acquiring information only for that particular cell size. Again, advantage is that when I have multispectral, for the same cell I will get 4 different values. It is a very complicated process. Millions and billions and trillions of data will be transmitted to the earth once it is in contact with your this receiving station. Well, what kind of satellite data, how satellite data is normally stored? We have 3 methods: BSQ, band sequential; BIP, band interleaved by pixel; BIL, band interleaved by lines data. So, let us see what exactly they mean. As you all know that it is all any kind of data can be stored in the form of say elevation data, rainfall data, temperature data, or spectral channels of your remote sense data. You have to organize that into a one dimensional data, because computer has to store the data and process the data. Band sequential. If I have 4 different bands in satellite, each and every band is sequentially stored. That is, this is the total area. I presume that there are 4 cells here. Each of the cells will be receiving for one particular band of that particular sensor. If I have 4 bands of the same sensor, for the same area I will get 4 different types of data. That means 4 into 4, 16 data. So, I can store that band by band, that is called as band sequential. That is 4 data of band 1 followed by 4 data of band 2 followed by 4 data of band 3 and so on and so forth. Whereas, when you talk about band interleaved by pixel, how the storage is done, you see. This is the first pixel of the first band, comma, first pixel of the second band, first pixel of the third band, and first pixel of the fourth band. Then it goes to the second pixel of the first band, second of the second band, second of the third band, and so on and so forth. You see how excellently they are doing the storage. So, this will be your band interleaved by pixel. It is band interleaved by line. What does it? Simple, same thing. This line, it may be 100,000, 1,000,000 data. This line, the first line of your first band, first line of the second band, first line of the third band, and the fourth band. Second line of the first band, second band, third band, fourth band. So, band interleaved by line. So, BSQ, BIP, we normally call it BSQ, BIP and the BIL format. This is how the satellite data for remote sensing is being stored. One of the very tough method of storing the raster data. A simple example of raster data, how the sea surface temperature is being represented here. Of course, you can see here you have both the raster data and as well as vector data. Can you visualize that? These are the lines indicative of your boundary of each and every country and the continent. Of course, internal also you have small country details here, various countries in the African, the South American. So, you find here the values are shown like this. You have a vector layer indicating the boundaries. Of course, this can also be provided by a raster provided increase the cell size, because represent the entire world, it is very difficult to have very fine resolution. It will go into trillions and trillions of data. Of course, the significance here is that how the sea surface temperature SST we call it as. The sea surface temperature it is a must for most of the things which are happening on the sea radar. SST or sea surface temperature is important for fishing purpose. Of course, it will not be directly relevant. Having started this, I thought I could just tell you about a little about that. Invariably, fish has got a specific attitude to go for higher temperatures. It will go and reside at relatively warmer places rather than the cooler places. So, this satellite which will have what is called as thermal infrared sensors, which will be capturing the data pertaining to the sea surface temperature. So, whatever is present in that area, whatever is the total temperature or whatever is that, it will try to acquire the temperatures of each and every cell, and we will be in a position to map that based on the variation in the temperature. See the indirect impact. When I am able to map the sea surface temperature, we presume that, or we know that invariably fish will be moving towards high temperature, relatively warm temperature, not exactly. And in other words, because of the presence of the fish at a given place, the temperature might also become little higher, it may become little warmer. So, that is an indicator for remote sensing scientists, especially fishery experts, to say that where fish catch is available, and this is being always announced over various media for the public to know or the fishermen to know where exactly fish might be available. Of course, I do not deny that fishermen are the best judges to know where the fish is available, but this method will help you to locate or find out where fish is available aplenty. So, that is the reason we use what is called as sea surface temperature. Now, coming back to your raster image, you can see here. So, this is, or you know that along the equator you can see how bright it is. You can see India, as all of you know that. So, this is how it will be there, and here the temperatures will be high. As you go further and further, it becomes much lesser, and again little away it will become more, and then again it will become less when you go to the poles part of it. So, how the representation is taking place in a raster. So, representing sea surface temperature for entire area using your raster analogy. Of course, all others are all your indicative of your boundaries which are there, and of course, values also there 4.75, and this is the lower temperature, and this is when you are going away from the atmosphere. So, when you close to the equator, you will have around 30 degrees 26.5, 23.5, 28.4, so on and so forth, around 30 degrees the closer to that. And obviously you can see that it will all be red in color, indicating very high temperatures. When you go away from that, it will become pleasant in nature, it will become much lesser, and here it will become much lesser, because this is a rotation part, this should go to the top. There are certain synonyms for raster data. We otherwise call it as surface data, nothing but your contour data and the DEM data. Grid data, that is what we normally use in your ArcInfo raster type. Image, a generic model which is normally related to satellite data, I told you earlier. An image, it may be .img, is the extension normally we use it for raster data in your ERDAS imaging software, a software which is exclusively used for image processing. You can enhance the data, you can suppress the data, you can manipulate the data, you can classify the data, one of the most efficient software as far as your image processing is concerned. An array, which is more of a technical term which is associated with your computers, how the raster data is managed. Matrix, which is rarely used because of its association with mathematics, but it does occasionally come up in your raster data. The third data structure in GIS, that is to represent say surfaces. So, let us see to what extent this particular third type of data structure, triangulated irregular network or TIN type of data structures, what will be the effect or influence of this data structure in creating a DEM, namely the digital elevation models, a very important way of representing surfaces. As I was telling you, any variation on the earth surface in the form of a third dimension, it is represented by contours as a 2 dimension in a topographic sheet. But with the advent of your computers, improvement in representing the data, improvement in forming a kind of a 3-dimensional analogy in GIS, it becomes much easier using DEMs. These digital elevation models are again obtained from various methods, and it is stored as a DEM, and in fact fortunately DEMs are available for the entire world, freely available for the entire world, a very coarse method, a 30 meter resolution or a 90 meter resolution. Do not get carried away with that. Resolution has nothing to do with the altitude aspects, it is the distance between one cell to another cell. For every 30 meters they have given, then for every 90 meters they have given. So, a 90 meter SRTM or your 90 meter ASTER data or all your grids which are available or the DEMs are available on the internet, anytime anybody can automatically download the data and work on that. So, let us see the details of your DEM, how it is generated, how it works, and what are the benefits and the advantages. Okay. So, all these details let us see in the next episode. Thank you.